What they are saying is, you black people are my prisoners. You are my slaves. You have never gotten out of slavery because you're under the system of white supremacy. It's just more sophisticated now. It's just another racism is a form of slavery. That's all it is. What is slavery? Slavery is mistreating people in a way and in a sophisticated form, if it's sophisticated slavery, that they don't know what to do about it. Slavery is nothing but a form of mistreatment. Subjugation and mistreatment. Domination, those two elements, and mistreatment. You dominate the person that you are mistreating, which means you dominate them in all of the areas of activity, including sex. And you also dominate them in the first area of activity, economics, how they use their time and energy. And in the second, education. So you tell a black person, you will announce to the world yourself that black schools are inferior, or that the education that black people are getting is an inferior education. Then you jump to labor, one of the areas of activity, and say, you're not educated, so therefore you can't work here. You don't have an education. Well, you don't have an education because you've already declared that the schools that you go to is inferior. You've already told the world that. So therefore, you got an inferior education. So when you come and look for a job, you're not qualified for the job. You can't go into the labor market because your education is inferior, which means by proxy, you're inferior in doing anything of constructive value. So now, you're going to have a baby. Now watch this now. You're going to have another baby, and you're not going to have a job because I'm not hiring you on a job without an education. And I'm going to see to it you don't have an education because I never straightened out the school system. I've been arguing about the school system, about who's black and who's white and who will go to what school and how much money you'll pay to go to school to get a so-called education. All right? Now you're going to have a baby on top of it without my authorization? I don't think so. So what I'll do, since you can't sustain yourself and support yourself and your baby, then I'm going to see to it you can't have no babies. Now how about them apples? And that's the correct thing for me to do, because I've cut you off from all resources where you can justify having a baby. Not only that, when it comes right down to it, as you get huffy about it, you can't even justify your existence. Because you're not supposed to be walking around on my planet with no education, don't have no job, and I'm not going to give you one. And I'm not going to allow you to make one for yourself. And you think you're going to have a baby on my planet, on my watch? No, I'm going to have to tailor. Because that's what they're doing now. I call it racial population tailoring confusion. I've been calling it that for years. That's one of their 6 strategies. So they are tailoring the populations of the non-white people because they're forcing them into an economic situation where they can only have so many babies. The white supremacists are correct about that. There are some people who run around in, I recently read something about some people in the Amazon, I believe, in what they call the jungle. I call it the forest. Mm-hmm. But they have babies all over the place. It's one right after another. And some of them die of what you call disease or natural causes and all like that.
Right.
But the females keep having them. But what do they have? Because the white supremacists allow them to have it, by the way. They too are under white supremacy. But on account of their primitive conditions, and that goes back thousands of years, and that's all they are used to, they can have unlimited babies because they're all going to be self-sustaining. That's the key. We're in an environment where the white supremacists will tell us, get an education and get a job, then they'll seal off the means by which you get either. And if a few black people seem to really want to get educated and don't give up on it, then what have they been doing in the last 15 or 20 years? They've been going up on what? The price of getting the education, knowing full well that your grandmother ain't got that kind of money. Because that's who you're going to be dependent on. You're just out of high school. You're going to depend on your grandmother, your mother, your sister, and your father who's looking for a job and gave up on it because he can't get one. So now you get into a school and the tuition just keeps going up and up and up and up. When here in the Northwestern Hemisphere, there were a lot of black people who had dishwashing jobs but went to college. They were Pullman Porter's children who went to college. They weren't making a fortune, but they could at least get in some type of college. The white supremacists looked at that and said, we're getting too many educated black people here. How do we stop them from getting an education? Go up on the tuition. Hey, that's a no-brainer. We'll tell them in order to get, even walk in this classroom, I mean, hey, you got to be talking about at least $10,000 just to walk in there and sit down. You haven't even been taught anything yet. But just to walk in and sit down, that's $10,000 right off the top. You black people, if you got it, as your grandmother got it, she's scraping together her little change and pennies and got her little coins in the handkerchief that she's been saving from that maid job till she got bad feet and whatnot, and that hospital job she had. I mean, now she can't help you. Nobody can help you because we got it rigged so nobody can help you. So now you got to drop out and look for a job. And we don't have a job for you because you don't have an education. See how they got that thing rigged? I'm telling you, these people are the shrewdest people that the world has ever seen. The people of the Roman Empire would be applauding, saying, boy, hey,
right.
They outdid us.